Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Norway House Borton Overseas Travelogue series. I'm Bonnie Boisner. I'm the president of Borton Overseas, and we're so happy you could join us tonight. This is the second in a three-part series for Norway House members and friends focusing on travel to Norway and Scandinavia. Borton Overseas is a leading tour operator here in Minneapolis, and we specialize in Scandinavia. So we're delighted to partner with the Norway House and share our expertise and our knowledge with all of you through this travel series. Our first series last month was all about travel to Norway. We showed you the must-sees in several areas of the country. We talked Oslo and the amazing sculpture gardens, the museums, the restaurants, and much more. We took you across the country to Bergen and the historic Wharf Bergen, the scenic views of Mount Fløyen, and other Bergen highlights. And then we spent a lot of time talking about the beautiful fjords for which Norway is so famous and how to experience them. We hope that started you off with some good ideas for planning your visit to this wonderful country. If you weren't able to join us last month, we invite you to view the session at the Norway House YouTube channel. So tonight, in this second webinar, we're going to give you some ideas on pairing other Nordic countries with that trip to Norway, giving you different experiences and making your journey even more memorable. With me here tonight is Borton Overseas Scandinavia Specialist Amy Tweet. Amy's been designing journeys to Scandinavia for over 7 years with a great love for the Nordic countries. She will go through some of the most popular and easy add-on recommendations to your Norway itinerary and the highlights of each country. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Hi everybody, and thank you Bonnie for that reminder of what brings us all here tonight, and that is our shared love of Norway. I absolutely fell in love with Norway on my first trip there 7 years ago, while I was taking that winding journey on the famous Flum Railway into the village of Flum. There is nothing like that dramatic descent through the forested mountains and stepping off of the train surrounded by towering mountains on all sides and seeing the fjord stretching out in front of you. On that same trip, I also met relatives for the first time that are still living on the same farm as the home where my great-great-great-grandfather was born. And that is where it became a personal experience for me, creating a passion that I now get to enjoy as a career. I'm here tonight to share with you ways to make your Norwegian getaway last a little bit longer by making a stop in one of the 4 wonderful Nordic countries: Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. Either on your way to Norway or back home, you can add one of the most popular of the Nordic countries, Iceland. Let's take a minute to watch a short video featuring some of the highlights of this beautiful island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. Once you have located your seat, we ask you that you please step out.
Now that you are thoroughly inspired to see Iceland for yourself, let's take a closer look at some of the best ways to spend your time. If you only have a few days, one of our top recommendations would be a soak in the silica, minerals, and algae of the Blue Lagoon, which is known for its amazing healing benefits for your skin. Another must-see natural attraction is the Golden Circle, which is made up of Geyser, Gullfoss Waterfall, and Thingvellir National Park. And of course, spending time in Reykjavik, the capital city. Here you can take in a concert at the Harpa Music Hall, visit the many unique and fascinating museums, and sample a famous Icelandic hot dog. If you have a little more time for your stay, you can really experience what an otherworldly place this is. With a whole week, you could even see the entire Ring Road, the one major highway that travels the entire coastline of the country. Along the south coast, you can see black sand beaches and tall basalt columns filled with birds of all different species, like those you saw in the video that we shared earlier. As you reach the southwest coast, Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon offers an amazing opportunity to take a zodiac cruise out among the floating icebergs. And in Húsavík in the north, it's one of the best places to take a whale watching tour. Here they offer tours in silent electric whale watching boats, which gives you the opportunity for an up-close experience unlike any other. If you want more adventure, there's even a tour that drops you down inside of a volcano. Iceland is also a prime location for viewing the northern lights in the winter. You can travel away from the lights of the city with an expert guide by either bus or boat in search of these elusive phenomena. Or stay at a countryside hotel where you may just catch a glimpse of the lights simply by stepping out of the front door. To make this stopover an even better option, when flying with Icelandair, you can take a stopover in Iceland of up to 7 days at no additional airfare cost. This is a really great way to break up that long overnight international flight, and we typically recommend doing this stopover on your way to Norway when you're fresh and excited for your travels. Another convenient way to extend your stay, either before or after your time in Norway, would be by taking an overnight cruise, train ride, or a flight from Oslo down to the capital city of Copenhagen, Denmark. On a short stay, the number one must-see on many people's list is Tivoli Gardens. This is an amusement park and the most popular attraction in all of Denmark. Take a stroll through the park gardens and take in the cozy atmosphere that makes Denmark known as one of the happiest countries in the whole world. Take a walk down Nyhavn and browse the pedestrian streets and side street shops, or on a full day tour outside of the city, you can visit some of the famous castles in the surrounding area, such as Kronborg Castle, which is a Renaissance castle made famous by Shakespeare, featuring it as Elsingor in his play Hamlet. If you'd like to stay long enough to see more of Denmark, you can really dive into the rich history and culture it has to offer. Viking history is a main attraction, some of which you can see yourself on a short day trip by train or on a self-drive journey to the small town of Roskilde. If you have already visited the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo, you may also want to add the UNESCO heritage-listed Roskilde Cathedral to your list. This is the final resting place for Vikings and Danish royals, which dates back 800 years. There is also a Viking Ship Museum in the Roskilde area if you happen to have missed the museum in Oslo, or even if you simply want to learn more about this fascinating history. Continuing west, you can step into the fairy tales of Hans Christian Andersen, author of famous tales such as The Little Mermaid, The Princess and the Pea, and Thumbelina. Here you can visit his childhood home in the small town of Odense. Another common combination with Norway is its eastern border neighbor, Sweden. Let's take a quick look at this next short video to open your minds and your taste to Sweden's charm. If Sweden is your destination of choice, a great place for a short stay would be Gothenburg, easily reachable by train in as little as 3.5 hours from Oslo. Here you can take a day to explore the city on a boat tour of the beautiful waterways and indulge in fresh seafood at the Fish Church, a large indoor fish market along the waterfront. This is personally one of my favorite ways to grab lunch in Gothenburg. You can shop around for a sampling of all of the things that you've been wanting to try and then take them out and sit along the water and just take in the views of the city and the boats passing you by. Haganigata is a small, charming neighborhood perfect for those who want to feel like a local. The pedestrian streets are lined with beautiful wooden houses, shops, and small cafes. For a bit of history, you can tour Elfsborg Fortress, which dates all the way back to the 17th century. You could even take a drive along the west coast to explore some of the charming small coastal towns. If you're more in search of wide open spaces instead, why not spend a few days and rent a car and trek across the forest and lake-filled Swedish countryside, taking you all the way to the capital city of Stockholm. Along the way, you will pass through some key locations to experience true Swedish culture. In central Sweden, you'll find Dalarna, the picture-perfect idea of what you think of when you think of Sweden. It's an area of mountains and deep forests, small towns, lakes, and meadows. It is also home to the brightly colored Dala horse. You can visit the Kingdom of Crystal, an area made up of multiple municipalities with 15 glassworks, including one of the most well-known, which is Kosta Boda, that has been making hand-blown glass since the mid-1700s. And finally, Stockholm. The capital city is filled with fascinating sights and museums, such as Gamla stan, or the Old Town in English, the Vasaship Museum, the ABBA Museum, Skansen, which is the world's first open-air museum, Stockholm City Hall, which hosts the Nobel Banquet every year, and Drottningholm Palace, home to Sweden's royal family. Stockholm is a beautiful city to see from the water. Journey through the narrow waterways and under the beautiful bridges on a boat tour or out into the islands of the Stockholm archipelago. You can ferry to the island of Vaxholm, which is a picturesque town with shops, restaurants, and cottages. It feels like you've left the city behind and can enjoy the charming small town feel away from the hustle and bustle. And last, but certainly not least, we have Finland, a short flight away, where you can sleep out under the Arctic sky and northern lights in glass-domed igloos, visit a local husky farm or a reindeer herd, participate in the most important of all Finnish experiences, a Finnish sauna, or seek the city life in Helsinki, the beautiful capital, which is filled with museums to pique all interests, a vibrant market square, an inhabited sea fortress built across 8 islands, and of course plenty of shopping and restaurants. It is also a great launching point to extend your reach into the Baltics if you wish to explore even farther. So as you can see, it can be simple and convenient and of course well worthwhile to extend your visit to 2, 3, or even all of the Nordic countries. I hope this virtual trip through just some of those highlights inspires you to start planning your next trip to Scandinavia.
Thank you, Amy. Great overview of so many things to see and different options to incorporate more experience into a Norway journey. I want to go back today. We all want to go back today. But as you know, due to the pandemic, the Scandinavian borders remain closed. In fact, in late January, with the new COVID strains coming out, all of the Scandinavian countries tighten their border controls even more. We're still hoping the countries will open to U.S. travelers this summer, so we continue just to plan now with the hopes of traveling a little later. And when travel is permitted, you can expect post-COVID protocols will include things like proof of vaccinations and or negative COVID test documentation, as they have in a lot of areas of the world today. We will be able to advise you of those specific requirements once we receive opening guidance for each country. You know, the Nordic countries want to welcome you all, but they'll only do so when it's safe to travel. And that's our main focus right now. So we hope the information we share tonight is really more dream content for you and that you'll be able to take action on those dreams in the upcoming months. You saw 4 countries tonight. So before we open it up for questions, we want to take you back to Norway for just a couple minutes to show you again some of the reasons we believe Norway to be so special.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm just getting my video turned on here. Hi, welcome everybody for joining us for another episode or series, part of Borton Overseas and Norway House's Travelogue series. Thank you again, Bonnie and Amy. Glad to have you here this week to present on the other Nordic countries besides Norway. What a fun video. I loved all the pictures that you guys have included this time, the videos, lots of fun. I mean, like you said, I really want to go.
We want to go. We want to go back. Yes.
As you can tell, I even have a picture here of me in Finland. I'll talk a little bit later about what this is behind me. But thank you again, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We just have a few questions that people have been submitting here in regards to the video. So Bonnie and Amy, I'll just kind of ask a few here and take away, and we'll see where the discussion goes. Yeah.
All right, great.
So let's start with our friends in Sweden. I hate to say it, but they kind of had the best video, at least in my mind. I absolutely loved that little minimalist cabin.
Yes.
In the woods. I want to go.
Those forests are unbeatable.
Yeah. But as we saw, a lot of it was in nature and whatnot. I love being in nature, but wondering if you can talk maybe a little bit about like some of the best ways to kind of get around Sweden, Stockholm particularly. I don't know if maybe people have been there, but what's the best way to get around? So
sure, yeah, I can talk about that one. For starters, if it's when you're arriving, the Arlanda Express is a really great way to get between the airport and city center. It's the train that goes between the two. It's fast, it's easy, it's inexpensive. You don't have to worry about traffic, and it drops you right at the train station in the city center where you can reach out to pretty much anywhere you need to be. Once you're in the city center, there's something called the Stockholm travel card, which is different than the Stockholm Pass, but this travel card gets you access to the subway, buses, trams, commuter trains, the ferries. So it is really just a one ticket option for your whole time there.
Oh, I love that. I know one of the biggest stressors when I was traveling abroad, in the Nordics even, was just wondering where to go, what train to get on, and like, do I have to get off now? Do I have to get off later? So,
and it's a great way to not have to bring around a bunch of random change and things that you don't quite know how to convert and what you need, and you just give them the ticket and you go. Yeah.
And I assume the rest of the Nordic countries are ahead of the game, just kind of like when I was in Finland. Everything's digital, touch mobile these days. Well, cool. Well, I know one of the first things I love to do when I get to a new country is kind of flavor the food. I love food. Could you maybe give a suggestion for your favorite restaurant in Stockholm? I know a lot of people are curious about the best places to eat. So.
Sure. If you're visiting something like Skansen, the open air museum, they have a really great place that our specialists have loved in the past called Shokafeet, which is really great in the summer. It has a nice outdoor dining area and you can sit amongst the historic atmosphere and buildings and such. So that is definitely one of their top favorites. And then there's also a place in Gamla Stan, which is the old town in Stockholm city center, and that is a great place to find more traditional food and a mix of modern. And one of the places that everyone has said they love is called Den Glindena Friednen.
Okay.
And that is, right there in Gamla Stan.
Okay.
For some traditional Swedish food.
Well, you might have to write these down and share them because, everybody, we're going to be sharing some of the answers to these questions and other ones that we don't get to tonight in an email later to, all of our members and share it with Borton Overseas. So, well, cool. Well, we talked about Sweden a little bit. Let's move to our next friend in Denmark. So what is the best way, we talk about what are the authentic experiences, to get to these countries? Because everyone wants to have, that authentic experience. What is the best way to get kind of that experience in Denmark and to feel like a local?
Sure. One of the best places for that would be taking a walk down those pedestrian streets. And once you're on the main pedestrian streets, there are little side streets that most people don't think to venture off to, and those have great cafes and great little shops. And then you can try an open-faced sandwich, which is one of the staples of the Danish diet, and sit along the waterfront, eat your sandwich, have a beer, and chat with whoever happens to be at the table next to you.
Carlsberg beer too, because that is the best beer in the world. When I was in Copenhagen a few years back, my uncle, who actually lives there, told me a story about how they had to change that big sign in downtown Copenhagen from the best beer in the world to probably the best beer in the world because of lawsuits.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's a good story.
But it is. Well, cool. Well, good. There's so many fun things that you can do when you're, in any of these countries that you go to. But sometimes things can be a little tight. So what would be a great Nordic country to go to, of course, besides Norway, if you have a limited budget, you'd be able to have really that authentic experience and have a great time?
I'll take that one. When I look across all of the itineraries that we do as a company and all the Scandinavian itineraries, probably almost 30% of them stop over in Iceland. And the reason that is an economical stop, while the prices in Iceland aren't that economical anymore, but why it's good for a budget conscious itinerary is because you don't have to pay that additional transportation cost. Because with Iceland Air, it's a very economical airline. They've got great service to Europe through Iceland, and then they offer that free stop, whether it's 3 days or 7 days. We can do all the highlights that Amy just recently spoke of. It's very easy because you don't have to add that big cost of more transportation to another country. So it's an opportunity to visit another country, at almost the same budget.
Yeah, well, and I highly recommend it. My partner and I went a few years ago. And actually the next question that I see here is the Golden Circle. You talked a little bit about the Golden Circle. How do you get there? What is it? How do you get around?
That is it's a collection of some natural attractions right outside of Reykjavik. So it can be done in one day. It can be done by a guided bus tour. Super Jeep tours are a cool way to get around in Iceland and see some things in smaller groups. And then you can also do it as a self-drive if you want to just navigate on your own and drive. It takes just a few hours of drive time, but obviously you want plenty of time to walk around the areas and see everything. But this, to go back, is made up of three main attractions, and that is Thingvellir National Park, which is where the first government was set up in Iceland, and it's also the meeting of tectonic plates. So you see those stacks up along the side of you. You can walk between them. There's trails around Gullfoss Waterfall and Geyser as well.
I gotta say, Thingvellir National Park, that was one of my favorite places to be. And I mean, to learn that history about the first kind of government forming, it was so cool. You really learned a lot about kind of ancient and pre-Viking era tribes that came together. You know, it's so cool. But Thingvellir and then Geyser too, of course. I do have to share one little fun thing too. I'm a huge fan of the Icelandic band Sigur Rós, and they actually came out with an album that has music pinpointed to the coordinates on the map. So you listen to the whole album as you drive around the Golden Circle, and you kind of enjoy this full kind of audio experience. So that's something I would just recommend to people as well. It was the coolest.
I haven't done that. I'm going to do that for my next trip there.
Yeah. do a music audio tour. That'd be lots of fun.
Yeah, that is different.
Well, let's see. The next question here. Oh, food, because we all love food. Helsinki. We haven't talked about Finland yet. Famous for saunas. I lived there for a year. It might be a little biased. That's one of my favorite places to be. But do you have a recommendation for a famous place? Not famous, but just a place to eat in Helsinki? I have something I can share too. But do you have anything to share?
One that is a really great place along the Esplanade is called Capelli, and it's a beautiful glass windowed open front restaurant right there on the harbor. And also just stopping at the harbor market is great. You can kind of browse around and get a good idea of what things look and smell like, and just see everything before you choose. And some of the more popular items at the place, like the market, would be salmon soup and rye bread. That's really a Helsinki thing. Yeah.
Oh, pro tip: the best langoustine soup I've had is from Iceland too. But the rest of the Nordics do it pretty well too. Well, cool. Yeah, no, because downtown Helsinki, you're talking about kind of being in the harbor there. I love going to Kamppi, which is kind of like the little market district down there. But one of the best places that it's the cutest place, and this place actually right behind me here, it's called the Regatta. It's in downtown Helsinki. It is the cutest little cafe. Honestly, only 5 people can probably go in there at one time. And it's very basic menu. It's like you get a cup of coffee and you get a pulla, a little pastry. And you can sit out here on the harbor and just kind of watch the boats. And what's also really cool is that right to, over here is the viewing stands from the 1940 Summer Olympics in Helsinki. So you can kind of see the old, it's lots of fun. As you can tell, I love Finland, love Helsinki. Well, cool. Well, and then of course, not to forget about the food, some of my favorite places in Helsinki, there's one that's called the Pampere Espa, and that was a really cool retro 60s firehouse. Where they actually have kind of long banquet dining hall, table halls in there. And it was the most authentic kind of classic Finnish food experience. You get your pea soup, you get your coffee, you get your pulla. But then another one of my favorite, well, actually, it's already my favorite, I know. I haven't eaten there yet, but there's been so much press about it, is the Nolla restaurant in downtown Helsinki. And that is the world's first zero waste restaurant, meaning that they don't even like to recycle if they don't have to. They compost everything. It is the coolest kind of food experiment. I know it's really taken off. Trine Hanneman, who is a Danish chef, was actually over here at Norway House about a year or two ago. I talked to her about this, and she was talking about how that kind of trend that started in Finland is now making its way to Denmark and Norway and Sweden. So really recommend that to people as well, to kind of go check that out. So, some more questions here. months. We always talk about like, what are the best months to visit some of these countries? So what are the best months to kind of visit Norway, but maybe some of the other ones too? You know, when is a good time of year?
Oh, you could look at that in so many different ways. Obviously, the summer is prime time. That is for all travelers. So June, July, August, it can be really busy, which is the downside. So maybe taking one of those shoulder seasons and seeing the blossoms in the spring in May or the colors in September and October would be also great. And then, of course, Northern Lights are a huge attraction in the winter. So you really can't go wrong.
Lots to see all around, all year round. Well, I see that we're a couple minutes over. We have one more question, and then I think we'll kind of leave it there for the night. So if we didn't have the chance to answer your question yet, please know that we will actually be posting these on our website and in an email next week with some of the answers from the experts. So to kind of close out the evening, one more here. We always talk about kind of accessibility nowadays and how accessible are some of these places. So in general, how handicap accessible are some tours to Scandinavia, the Nordic countries?
That one can be a bit tricky in those countries. A lot of tours are done by coach bus, and you would want to be able to expect to walk those stairs up onto the bus. There may be developing ways of getting wheelchairs on and such, but if you are absolutely unable to walk, it might be a little bit tricky. They also visit a lot of historic sites that they haven't wanted to do a whole lot of adjusting to. It's a lot of still stone stairs and different things like that. So there are usually ways to get into buildings, but you may be a little more limited to how far within you can go. There may be certain areas that can cause some tricks there. So.
Yeah. Well, one of those ways to just, experience the ancient. So, well, good. Well, I think that kind of wraps up for the evening. Thank you again. Oh, and actually, before I wrap up, Bonnie, I wanted to kind of pass it back to you because I know you wanted to say a couple words too. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Max. I just wanted, first of all, thank you, Max and Norway House. Your partnership is so important to us, and we just value the things you do for our community, including bringing people together online like this. So thank you. And for everybody tuning in tonight, gosh, thank you. We know your time is precious. We hope you learned some things. And again, can get those little juices going. If we can be of any more help to you, you know where to find us on our website, our phone number, our emails. But we'd love to talk more with you. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of their evening tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, Amy. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. So, all right, we'll see you in a few weeks here.
Next time.
Exactly, for the final episode. So gather all your questions, do some research, and come back and ask Bonnie and Borton Overseas some more. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.